I'll say this throughout the show, but I get into show mode and I don't acknowledge comments all that much. So just keep that in mind. But we're getting a few people in here. Everybody's coming in. Thank you so much for joining. What's up, little Frankie? Hi, Kool-Aid. Guys, if you're new to the stream, if anyone here is new to the stream, my name is Gabby, and this is a show called In It Together with Gabby and Sammy. It's hosted by me and Sammy J, who is a mental health therapist. You'll see her throughout the chat here. She'll be joining us in about maybe 10 minutes or so. So if you're wondering what this show is, this is a show where Sammy and I discuss coping with emotional, social, and psychological well-being to promote self-healing and self-development. Every week we have a new topic that we share with you. We provide you guys education, resources, and tips that you can use every day on your life to self-healing and happier living. So our goal is to get you guys leaving this stream feeling like you got something, like you've learned something here. So I'm really excited today. I just want to let you guys know the topic we're covering today is mental health therapy. So it can be a little bit of a vulnerable topic for a lot of us. I'm sharing my story as well. So I would just ask that all of you guys are respectful in the comments to everyone who's participating tonight. We have one of my best friends, Cody, with us today, who's going to be talking about his experiences in therapy, as well as Oh Hey, host of the Oasis on Fridays. So I'm really, really, really excited, guys. So yeah, just so you guys know, I do get into host mode. So I appreciate the gifts. I appreciate the love. If you have any questions during the show, I recommend getting a piece of paper and a pen so you can write it down and you can ask us, okay? Because we're going to have a Q&A. Thank you guys so much for joining. We always start the show with an intro, which was created by Ash Marie and I. So thank you, Ash. Shout out to Ash Marie for being awesome.
Hold on to me now. You're not invincible. If you let your guard down, I'm not gonna let you fall. Hold on to me now. I'm not invincible. Drowning in self-doubt. Can you pull my demons out? Oh, it's all on the table. Nothing to hide. Hold on to me now. You're not invincible. I'll carry you somehow. The weight of you makes me strong. Hold on to me now. I'm not invincible. The dragon.
Thank you guys so much for joining. Give me a moment while I try to get these headphones connected to the right device. Hopefully. And we're also going to switch the music up here. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Gabby, and this is In It Together with Gabby and Sammy. This is a show that Sammy, who's a licensed therapist, and I do. Woo! We're really getting that loud music today, guys. Sorry about that. We do the show every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we talk about coping with emotional, social, and psychological well-being to promote self-healing and self-development. Every week we have a new topic that we introduce to you guys. We provide you guys with education, resources, and tips so you can use every day on your journey to happier living. So I'm so happy to have you guys all here today. Today we are going to be talking about mental health therapy. And I would just like to say again, guys, when I do the show, Sammy and I are in host mode. So thank you guys all in advance for all of the love, the support, the gifts. If you have questions, write them down and ask them at the end of the show for the Q&A, because we won't be answering them throughout the show. So thank you guys so much for understanding. Let me give you a little idea of what to expect for today. So today, guys, I actually decided to add a new segment to the show called Tell Me Something Good. So every day before the show, I'm going to post on my Instagram story, which you can add me into my bio. By the way, it's just a button. It's Gabby Uke is my Insta. In the story, I'm going to say, tell me something good that happened to you this week. And I'm going to shout out a couple of the people who responded to the story. After we go through the Tell Me Something Good segment, we have an Instagram question and answer segment that I post a couple days before the show. So if you ever would like to participate in either of these parts of the show, just make sure you follow me on Instagram. Once again, it's in my bio. It's just a button. Somebody will probably put it in the chat also. After we go through our Instagram Q&A, Sammy's going to join us in the box. She's going to give us our stats and facts that she loves so much. And then you're going to get to know Sammy a little bit better today, guys. We're going to dive into Sammy's story about becoming a therapist. And then you're going to get to know me a little bit better, too. I'm going to tell you guys about my experiences with going to therapy. And then I actually have two amazing guests. If you guys were here for the intro, you saw Cody, who's one of my great friends in real, he's like one of my best friends. Like I've known for probably like 10 years. He was on the show we did for art being therapeutic for us. If any of you remember the art show, then you would have probably seen Cody. So yeah. And then we have Oh Hey, also who she is the host of The Oasis, and she's going to be telling us her story as well. So I'm so excited, guys. So let's get started with the first part of the show, the new part of the show. Tell me something good. I have 3 people to shout out. So if you're in the chat, please let me know that you're here. Chef Wolfie, are you here in the chat today? Because you responded to the Instagram question and said that I could tell everybody something good. Let me know if you're here. If you're not, I'm going to go ahead and just say it. So Chef Wolfie, if you guys know him, he's an amazing person. He comes to my live very often. He said that something good that happened to him this week is that he moved for a career opportunity. So Wolfie, if you're here, congratulations. That's amazing. I'm so excited for you. And it's going to be awesome. Taylor King, are you here? If Taylor King is here, he also responded to the Tell Me Something Good post. Taylor King got a new job offer, and he spent 6 weeks training on something that was completely new to him. How awesome is that? Awesome. Congratulations. I'm excited that you explored your horizons and you were able to, do something new and fulfilling. So congratulations, Taylor King. And then Mr. 515 Dar, if you were here, you also responded to the post and said that I could shout you out. So Mr. 515 Dar, if you're here, I'm going to shout you out with your permission. So Dar is on a weight loss journey, which I didn't know. He said that he lost some weight this week, and he started at 215 pounds December 1st, and on today he's 195. So heck yeah, man, congratulations, keep it up. So yeah, guys, we're gonna do this segment at the beginning of every show because we're talking about happier living, and so we might as well talk about the things that are happy and positive in our lives. So thank you, Chef Wolfie, Taylor King, and Dora for participating. I appreciate you guys. Now it's time for the Instagram Q&A that we normally start the show with. So guys, I asked you in a poll question, have you ever had mental health therapy before? 59% said yes and 41% said no. If you have had mental health therapy before, hit a 1. And if you've never had it before, hit a 2. Just curious. Let's see what the chat says. A lot of, okay, an awful lot of 2s now, but a lot of 1s too. I would say pretty close to half. I mean, it's pretty close to half up here too. Well, guys, if you've had it before, you'll relate to this show. And if you've never had mental health therapy before, maybe this will be the show that helps to push you in the right direction. Now, I had a question to those who said yes and no. So if you've had mental health therapy, how did it benefit you? I'm alive and well. Yes, absolutely. We love that. It helped me discover negative roots and how to make them positive. It helped me to release some negative energy and turn it into positive energy. I am no longer dissociative or socially anxious. I learned to love myself and release shame. That's beautiful. So thank you guys to everyone who participated to that part of the question. And now for those of you who've never been to therapy, what's holding you back? Communication, specifically talking about my thoughts, emotions, fears. I'm not very good at it. I have a lot on my plate, too many things for me to worry about to better myself. Man, you guys are making me sad with these responses. Being afraid to open up to someone. Well, guys, thank you for participating. For those of you who responded, I really hope that the show will bring some light to therapy for you, and I hope that maybe you'll be able to take that step if it's something that you need to do. So, whoops, sorry. Well, we have the Oasis. We'll talk about that later when she's on. All right, guys, it's time for our co-host Sammy J to join the box. If you're just tuning in, this is In It Together with Gabby and Sammy, a show we do every single Tuesday where we talk about mental health, self-development, and self-healing. Today we're going to talk about mental health therapy, which is ironic because we've never talked about it. But we
I
talk
know,
about
like,
mental.
how have we never covered this topic before?
I love how my headphones didn't connect. It's
Oh
fine. I
no,
don't. It's so silly. Isn't technology just so silly?
I love
We
technology.
love technology, don't we?
Yes.
Well, Sammy, how did you feel about some of those responses?
I mean, I wasn't surprised to hear any of them. I think I'm glad to hear people are getting benefits out of therapy. That's phenomenal. We always talk to our guests beforehand, and some of the questions we were asking them, I was like fangirling because they were like using techniques that I use. And so love to see that this stuff is working for lots of people. So that's good to hear. And yeah, I acknowledge that therapy can be tough. Talking is hard, being vulnerable is hard. We're not taught to do it usually, so it's a whole new ballgame for a lot of people. So I get why it's intimidating. So hopefully the show is going to help you guys say, okay, well maybe I can give it a try. Maybe it's not so scary.
Yeah, trust me, it does take a lot of strength. But it's time for our stats and facts section, Sammy J.
We're going
Lay
to
it
jump
on us.
right into it. So these are not necessarily as fun as I like them to be, but just some facts about therapy in general, just to give you guys an idea, kind of maybe normalize things a little bit for you guys. So these studies are all based off of like 2019 studies. So I do recognize that given the COVID situation and people's mental health really declining lately, these stats might be off. So this is from 2019. So in 2019, 19.2% of adults had received any mental health treatment in the past 12 months, including 15.8% who had taken medication for their mental health and 9.5% who had received counseling or therapy from a mental health professional. So they kind of separated that to say who's doing just meds, who's doing just therapy, and there's some overlap of people that are doing both. Also, the percentage of adults who had received any mental health treatment in the past 12 months was lower among those aged 18 to 44 compared with older adults. So 18 to 44 was 18.5% of the population. So our older adults are seeming to be getting more mental health treatment, which is kind of interesting to me.
I find that interesting also, just because like I feel like the stigma was even more so much for those generations, you know? So
Yeah, but
interesting.
I'm glad to see that they're breaking through that and saying I need help anyway. So good to hear. Um, there was all the stats were also showing that people over 45 tended to turn to medication more. So this is maybe where the difference is, because that first stat was looking at mental health treatment in general. So it's looking at medication and counseling. So this is saying that people over 45 tended to turn to medication more, while those under 45 turned to counseling more. So that could be maybe why there's that difference.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Also, women are more likely than men to take medication and to go to counseling. Not really a shocker there, I don't think. Um, and typically I think it's just because even med wise guys aren't usually willing to talk and say like, hey, I'm having a problem with this, where they might be put on medication. Non-Hispanic white adults are more likely to have received counseling or take medication than other races, followed by Black adults. So there is a racial disparity there, and that could be due to a multitude of reasons. The percent of adults with mental health illness who report they try and can't get treatment is 20.6%, which is really high.
Wow.
That's way too many people, in my opinion. So they didn't go in exactly to say like why they couldn't. My guess would be either insurance, and then it's too expensive. Even with insurance, it can be very expensive. And then the percent of US adults with mental illness who are uninsured is 12%. So 12%
That's
of
it.
people with mental
Nobody
illness
should
are uninsured.
Everyone should be insured this time. We won't talk about that.
We won't go there today.
We won't go there. So guys, if you're just
That's
tuning
your
in,
stats and facts.
this is Stats and Facts with Sammy J. So if you're just tuning in, this is In It Together with Gabby and Sammy. Sammy J in the Box is my co-host and a mental health therapist. I'm a mental health advocate. And together we do the show to talk about coping with emotional, social, and psychological well-being to promote self-healing and self-development so that we can wake up happy every day and have a good morning. Yep.
Yeah.
So right now we're gonna delve into a little bit of what mental health therapy is like. Right now we're gonna learn a little bit about Sammy J. So I'm gonna interview her pretty much, guys. So this is a little different. So Sammy, are you ready?
Ready. Let's go. Don't
Sammy,
ask too many hard questions.
oh, I won't. I could give you like a math equation or something.
No, please don't. I did not become a therapist because I'm good at math. I did not.
What is the slope of y equals
Please don't.
whatever?
Please don't.
Just
I'm having a panic attack right now. Just trying to think of that.
okay,
How do you solve slope again?
I'll ask you. How do you spell it? Jeez.
No, how do you solve it? How do you solve it?
Okay, I
Anyway.
got one for you. Why did you decide to become a therapist?
Oh, good. That's way more my speed.
Yeah.
So I've talked to some people about this before. I come from a big family. We're all really close. I have a lot of nurses in my family and a lot of just like helping professions in general. So I've always kind of been like around people that enjoy helping other people and they enjoy working with people. So I've always been kind of drawn to that. I knew I couldn't be a nurse. I don't really like blood and all that kind of stuff. And physically, for those of you who don't know, I'm in a wheelchair. So that probably just was not going to work for me. There's lots of physicalness involved with being a nurse. So I was like, nah, I'm not destined to follow that career path. So in high school, I took a psychology class and I loved it. I also at that time was a fan of a show called Judging Amy. I don't know if anybody has watched that show, but it was about a woman that was a judge in the juvenile justice system, and her mother was a social worker, and her mother was like awesome, like saving kids left and right. And I was like, man, I would love to be like a social worker. That would be so cool to like help people and get them out of bad situations. But again, kind of the physical limitations kicked in, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to like go in people's houses. They're not usually handicap accessible. Like, that's just a fact of life. But I was like, what else could I do to help people? And I was taking this psychology class at the same time. So I just kind of like fell into the idea of counseling and just kind of ran with it from there. I never really stopped and changed my major. Once I hit college, that's what I knew I wanted to do.
It's awesome. So, would you say that your mental health adapted and you just as a therapist in general, or you know what I mean? Because I know you also deal with a lot of as a therapist, you get a lot of people talking to you about their problems. Like what is that like? It's on the flip side.
Yeah, it's definitely stressful. I mean, I'm sure people that come into my stream have come into my stream before where they're like, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm here. It can be a lot to just hear the tragedies that people go through on a regular basis. But I will say definitely like my education has helped me to figure out like, how do I deal with that? What do I do with it? I've learned so much that I didn't know. This is not just you go into a room and you talk to somebody. Like, there are things that we don't know about how the body works and how the mind works that we are taught to do and taught to bring you awareness to, that will help you progress in life too. So I'm kind of just taking my education and then helping to find ways for you to learn these things too. So definitely going to school I use the skill. I guess I will say, I don't use all the skills that I preach, but I do use some of the skills that I preach. I'm not a perfect person, so I definitely still work on things all the time.
Yeah, for sure. So, so what type of people actually would benefit from going to see a mental health therapist?
Literally everybody. Yeah. There's nobody that would
Like,
not benefit from seeing a mental health therapist. Um, even if I'm gonna pick on Josh because Josh said he's perfect and he doesn't need therapy. So even if you don't think you need therapy, even just going to talk to somebody like once a month, just to be like, hey, like these are the things that maybe I've potentially struggled with, or like this, just these things have happened and I just want to like sort through it for a second. Like it helps to have that person who like plays no part in your life other than for these moments, to bounce ideas
yeah,
off of, because people in your life are biased whether they want to admit it or not.
yeah, that's
Everybody.
definitely a reason to go to therapy for sure. So, are there different types of mental health therapy?
Yeah. So and I guess so there's two different kind of like layers to that question when I hear type. So there's inpatient therapy where you're going to stay somewhere for several days and you're going to do like group therapy is a thing where you're in a room with multiple different people, and that can vary depending on how many group leaders there are and that kind of stuff. Um, there's also group therapy that's not inpatient. There's individual therapy, which is mostly what I do. So I'm just one on one with a person in a room. There's family therapy. So I do a lot of that as well with my kids that I see. So that could be a kid and a parent, that could be um, a kid and their sibling, or any member of the family, and as many as you want. I'm trying to think if there's other modalities that I'm forgetting. I'm sure I am. But then there's also like different styles too, and I think we're gonna get into that later. But those are kind of like the different types, essentially.
All right, cool. And we're gonna get into that too, because once again, guys, if you're just tuning in, this is In It Together with Gabby and Sammy. This is Sammy J, licensed therapist in the box. We're talking about mental health therapy today. Um, you're gonna hear the perspective from me, Cody, and from Ohay about our therapy experiences, and they're all I want to say they're all pretty different experiences. So, stay tuned for that. So, Sammy, could you reflect on a time, or just I guess the what in general what it's like to see people progress as they're seeing you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been practicing now for almost 4.5 years, so I've seen a lot of progress. Um, it's really, really cool when I get to start with a person and get to the end and say, wow, like you accomplished your goals. So usually if you're seeing a therapist that's doing what they should be doing, at the beginning they should be saying, let's set goals. And we've talked about goals in here. And then they're monitoring your progress as you go, and you're getting to a point at the end to say, wow, I met my goals. Should I set more goals, or do I feel confident now to say like, hey, I'm ready to try this on my own? Because therapy is not meant to be a forever thing, guys. You can start and stop as many times as you want. And you shouldn't be relying on one person forever. um so yeah, I mean, a specific case, I'm trying to think. I just discharged a client recently who had came in. I didn't start with her. Another therapist had started with her, but that therapist actually was an intern, and the intern finished their stint with us. So I then inherited this client. So when she started with the intern, she was like, had very poor boundaries, which led to a lot of anger. She had a lot of difficulty controlling her anger. Then she came to me, and she was in school. She was a college student. Um, and she was really struggling with her anxiety, and it was getting the best of her. She was failing classes left and right, really, really struggling. And we got to a point now where she had dropped out of school, but she's now getting ready to go back into school, try it again, give it a whirl. She is engaged. They just bought a house. She has full control pretty much of her anxiety. She does, use some medication and stuff. So, which there's nothing wrong with that. But she feels very confident to control herself. She feels confident to set boundaries with people. She is setting boundaries with people with her work. Like, she's doing phenomenal. So we decided, hey, it's time for you to go out and give it a whirl for a while without me. So it was really cool to
Heck
see.
yeah. That's awesome to see that kind of progress. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what types of techniques are like your favorite thing to teach people, or even ones that you
Yeah.
use yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of CBT. We've talked about CBT in here. Quick review: CBT is our cognitive behavioral therapy. So that's your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions, how they're all connected. Think of it like a triangle. And they all interact with each other. So I love figuring out, like, everybody's a little bit different. Some people it's easier to target your thoughts, some people it's easier to target your behaviors, some people it's easier to target your feelings. So I love trying to figure out, like, what type of person you are, where should we start. um and then, so a lot of this will be like thought challenging. We've talked about cognitive distortions in here. So challenging those negative thoughts. I love teaching deep breathing. I think that's super helpful. um we've done some grounding techniques in here that I like. There's one that I call I Spy, which is essentially using all your senses, not just your sight, to ground yourself in a moment when you can't stay in the moment. You're worried about what happened 5 days ago or what's going to happen in an hour. And that just brings you right back to your present. So I love a lot of CBT and mindfulness approaches.
Okay, Sammy, that's awesome. We talk about that all the time.
Yes.
We
I
talk
get
about that all the time. So, this is probably going to be one of the last things I ask you, but what advice do you have for any of us who might be reluctant to go to therapy? Rather, we're just, I mean, it's really scary to take that step, you know?
Yes, yes. So my advice would be, talk to your friends. I bet you more of your friends are in therapy than you think, or at least some of them. Reach out to people you know, get their advice, get their thoughts. Also, if you're interested, like, go, figure out who you can see first. So go to your insurance webpage, figure out, go to select a provider, hit a therapist. It'll give you a list of people. Google them, read their bios, see, does anybody, like, stick out to me? Read reviews about people. Are people saying this person is doing a terrible job or a great job? And then from there, you can kind of say, like, okay, should I give this a try? I always say give everything a try and give it 3 tries. So with therapy, it's really hard because the first session is honestly probably always going to suck a little bit, because our job is to assess you that first session. So we're going to ask lots and lots of questions. They're going to feel uncomfortable. And it's not fun. And you might leave saying, like, wow, I feel worse than when I came in, because you thought about things that you haven't thought about in a really long time, or you try to not think about. So you have to give it a couple tries, unless somebody's just being, like, blatantly awful. So yes, give it a try. And sometimes it might be just like that therapist isn't a good fit for you. So try it with another person. Keep trying if you're thinking it at all could be helpful.
Good advice. Good advice. Guys, if you're just tuning in, my name is Gabby. This is Sammy J, licensed therapist, and this is In It Together with Gabby and Sammy. We do the show every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today's topic is mental health therapy. We just got done going through some stats and facts. We learned about Sammy's journey to becoming a therapist, as well as some of her knowledge and advice on it. And I'm just curious, who's still here? Hit a 1 if you're here. We have my experience plus 2 more guests coming. So I want you guys to stay tuned so you don't miss out. Wow, so many awesome people are here. I love you guys.
Yay, thank you guys.
I hope you guys are learning something so far. So I'm going to tell you my experience about therapy. Then we're going to have my best friend Cody come in the box, tell us about his experience. And then stay tuned for Ohe, host of the Oasis. And she's going to also tell us about her experiences. I feel the show might go on a little bit longer than I expected. Sorry, Cody, I told you 9:30, but might be a little bit longer than that. But thank you guys. Also, make sure you favorite me up here by see that little See that? What shape is that? The star? See that star up there? Hit that star so you can come back and hang out in my everyday live streams as well as this show every week. And hit Sammy J with a favorite too. She is a live streamer. Her lives are so fun. So make sure you guys go check her out. She's usually on at like 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time throughout the week. So if you ever have any questions about mental health, you can always go to her live and ask too. So thank you guys once again for being here. It's time for me to get vulnerable. So once again, I just like to say we don't acknowledge comments during the show or gifts. So thank you guys so much for hanging with us. Thank you for the love. If you guys have any questions, you can ask them at the end when we have a Q&A. Maybe write them down. Glad you're enjoying the show, Cody. But now I'm going to tell you, and also please be kind in the chat to all of us because I'm now a guest because I'm putting myself in the position to put my guests in right now. So anyway, guys, I'm going to tell you about my experience with therapy. So without getting into too much detail, my experience started very young. I grew up in a really toxic household that involved a lot of drugs and psychological and physical abuse. I lost my mom when I was 9 to a drug overdose, and my dad to this day is an addict, and his girlfriend was really abusive to me. So you could tell I probably needed to get some therapy at some point in my life. So after my mom passed away when I was 9, it actually started very young. When I was in school, I remember that I would go to a therapist that would take me out of class. I actually don't remember a single thing about it. I just do remember that there was a time I was because my mom had passed and I was getting abused and kind of isolated from everyone. So I had a lot of anger, a lot of pent up anger, and I took it out on someone who bullied me when I was a kid. And so they pulled me to the office, and I don't know, Sam, you can comment on this. I remember they had me punch a stuffed animal, and I was like, I don't want to punch this stuffed animal right now. Is that like old fashioned? Because this had to have been like 2004. Is that like a common thing?
I typically don't have kids do that in my session, but I will talk about if you can't say it, can you get it out of your body in some way? So we will talk about my kids that typically I won't do it with a kid that's not usually physical. So my kids that want to punch walls and stuff, I'll say, instead of punching a wall, can you punch a pillow? Can you punch a stuffed animal? Can you punch your mattress? Something that's safer. But I don't typically make them do it in front of me, and I don't do it to kids that aren't typically punching things to begin with.
Yeah, so that was my very, very first experience, and I pretty much had a bad feeling about therapists ever since that, because I thought I just personally didn't really rub me the right way, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, since I again lost my mom and was abused and stuff at home, and I'm pretty sure it was obvious enough where they had me see a therapist pretty much all throughout my high school career. I pretty much used the school counselor that was there, but they ended up getting me a school-based counselor because there was when I was 16, I actually left the household I was in. I kind of hopped from family to family, so I didn't really have a steady home, and it was just a lot to deal with. But they gave me a school-based counselor, and my experience again was actually bad because I'm because I'm getting vulnerable. I used to self-mutilate. I used to have an eating disorder. And this man never noticed as a therapist. And I thought, and I was probably 17, I was like, shouldn't you know?
Right.
Shouldn't you have an idea? So I never ever was like, I'm not going to therapy ever in my life because they don't care. They don't notice. So that's how I felt, you know what I mean? So I never went back to therapy again until so I was 22 years old, and it was kind of I went through a 6-year relationship that was really serious, and it ended, and it was just a lot, you know what I mean? And plus the traumas I hadn't dealt with, I just kind of let them sit in the back of my head. It got to a point where I had an end of life plan, and it was terrifying to get to that point because I feel like it's almost normal that all people sometimes have that thought, oh, I'd rather off be dead. That's something that all people think at one, you know what I mean? So that makes you feel a lot better if you're that person, because you're all that person probably.
Yeah.
But sometimes, sometimes we have those thoughts, but it got to a point where I had a plan. This was October of 2018. And I told my roommate that what was going on. I told her because I was scared of myself. And I told her my plan, and she said, okay, so we're going to take you to a mental health facility. You really don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and I stayed for 10 days, and It really changed my life. So if any of you guys have ever went to a mental health facility, or if the time ever comes for some reason where you have to go, people fear it, but sometimes it's so necessary.
Yes.
So necessary. So that was my first time really, in my opinion, getting real, genuine, raw therapy. I had one-on-one sessions. We had group therapy with like probably like between like 10 to 20 people. A lot of the group therapy sessions were interesting because a lot of them, they would give us like worksheets, like we were in school, and we would have to like respond to different prompts, and sometimes they would give us journal entries, and we would all just respond. I mean, they didn't force us if we didn't want to. They actually didn't even force us to go to the therapies if we didn't want to, but that pretty much meant you were staying longer because
Yeah,
you weren't ready to be yet.
absolutely.
So kind of you eventually have to comply. um, but yeah, the group therapy, and actually this is where I kind of tell this story a lot, when it comes to like why I made this show. I told my story, which you guys aren't going to hear in great detail at all. And this girl cried. Like, she actually cried to a lot of us, a lot of our stories, but she was so distraught, and I was the only one left in the room with her besides the therapist. So I was trying to like calm her down. And the therapist came to me and she was like, you have a gift. You could possibly like get into this field. Like, I think you'd be really good at it. And so I don't have the time or the money to go to school for 6 years. So that's why I did the show. But anyway, speaking of, if you guys are just tuning in, this is a show called In It Together with Gabby and Sammy. We do this every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today we're talking about mental health therapy. I'm talking about my experiences with therapy right now, and then we're gonna have Cody jump in the box, tell us about his experience, and then Oh Hey will jump in the box, tell us about her experience. If you guys have any questions, save them till the end because we're in host mode right now, so we don't really acknowledge comments and gifts during host mode. So save it for the end. But anyway, so after and also to mention, in the mental health facility, I also experienced art therapy for the first time. I experienced recreational therapy for the first time. I experienced music therapy for the first time. And I did yoga for the first time also. And I also, it was my first time having a dietitian help me with my eating disorder. Like, really, that I needed that experience.
Yeah.
That experience changed my life. It changed my perspective. Um, and then after my time ended with them, they referred me to a therapist who I had been seeing for maybe almost 3 years, but she ended up getting another job, so I have a new therapist I'm getting used to. But I got very, very close to my therapist, super close to my therapist. It was, maybe I just got lucky and got someone who I clicked with, but she was so awesome. Like, I felt so comfortable with her. She always made me feel like valued and like I had worth. She really taught me so much, and she even it would be nice to get validated from her, saying like, oh, I see the progress you've made. Like, you've made so much progress. So like Sammy said, sometimes you have to juggle therapists to find the right one. I had those two bad experiences when I was young, but then I had a great experience at that facility and with the therapy. I have a new therapist now. I'm kind of getting to know her a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much like my experience with therapy. I would say like the things that I've learned that I learned really I learned that I need to have gratitude for the things in my life. I don't know if Jameson is here, but that's his show. Shout out to Jameson. But I have so much I forget, it's so hard. It's so easy to forget the things in your life that are valuable to you, the people that are there for you. It's so easy to feel alone and like you're worthless. It's so easy because it's just I don't know what it is. I feel like it's just negativity is so strong. You know what I mean? You have to be so strong to think positive. But
Yeah.
my experiences in therapy really, well, first of all, they got me diagnosed. I found out what's really happening.
Mhm.
I've told you guys I have PTSD and bipolar disorder. I got diagnosed, I got medicated, and at least I know, I have answers now, and I have resources now. So those are my experiences pretty much.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
And I think I love to hear that you had a great experience from an inpatient stay, because that is a hard one to do. It's scary. It's scary to give up your rights and your privileges, but it's brave to say, if I don't do this, I could make a mistake that I can't take back. So that was super brave of you and super awesome to be able to show other people you can take that step and you can come out the other side okay. That's
Thank you,
awesome.
Sammy. Thank you.
Yeah.
We didn't have this
Proud of
conversation.
you.
This is our first time having this conversation. So yeah, guys, if you're just tuning in, this is In It Together with Gabby and Sammy. Today we're talking about mental health therapy. If you're just tuning in, you've missed some stats and facts. You've missed Sammy's story about becoming a therapist and a little bit of advice. We have two amazing guests that are coming into the box. We have Cody. He's my best friend. I've had like 10 years. And then we're gonna have Oh Hey in the box as well. They're both gonna tell us about their experiences. So we are gonna lose Sammy for a little bit. Guys, we are in host mode, so please remember to write your questions down for Sammy J. Also, favorite her before she leaves the box, guys.
But I am coming back. I'm coming back after Oh Hey. We're gonna answer questions. We're gonna wrap up. But do we have a quote today?
I have a tarot card.
Yes. So we're gonna do all that. So I will be back, guys. But I'm gonna leave you for now. Okay. All right. I'll be back, guys. Bye.
All right, guys, it's time to introduce Cody. Even though it says the Irrelevance because that's his band. It's gonna pop up.
Hello.
What's up, Cody?
What's going on?
Oh, just doing a show. Cody, would you like to just introduce yourself? Like, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Cody. I'm 25. I've actually recently just started going back to therapy about 4 months ago. Again, as Gabby mentioned, me and her have been friends like basically forever, and she's like a sister to me at this point. So she's seen the worst of me. I've seen the worst of her, honestly. And to see us both come as far as we have, I'm just like super proud of you. And it's like everything that's going on.
Yo, I'm proud of you, Cody.
Thank you. I don't know what else to say.
That's okay. So guys, Cody is actually not from the Meet Me app. I brought him on, so he's not a streamer, at least not yet. So just in case he does stream, hit him with a favorite. He's a musician. He's very talented. So definitely hit him with a favorite. Okay, let's go with this interview, my guy. It's time. So you're here because you've had therapy. You've actually just mentioned that you started going back 4 months ago. Started going back. So when was your first experience with therapy?
My first experience was like Sammy kind of hit it on the head. Try 3 times kind of thing. My first experience was I think I was 19. The job I had at the time offered like 5 free sessions, so I was like, interesting. So I went and go ahead and did that because there was unresolved like conflict in my head for multitude of things I didn't understand at the time, things I still don't completely understand maybe. But when I went and going as young as I wasn't really too sure about it. I mean, I guess I'd say the experience was okay. A couple of things, I don't really know if I clicked with my therapist, maybe that was the issue. Um, but after about, I did the 3 sessions. After about 3 sessions, I just realized that this wasn't, I don't want to say realized, I thought that it wasn't going to be the correct path for me or that it wasn't worth my time, that I could have a better control of it myself.
So you eventually got a opinion of therapy, thinking that it just wasn't gonna work for you. That was your opinion after this experience. So
And I went 6 years, 7 years thinking that.
yeah. So what changed recently?
Just growing up, realizing that my feelings or the issues I was having weren't resolving themselves, or the path that I thought I should take rather than therapy wasn't working. Um, and just kind of growing up and seeing, you guys said it too also yourself, like ask your friends, maybe they're going to therapy, or we all have these thoughts. I thought maybe I was alone in that, but then I realized almost everyone that I know has these issues. So it really kind of felt more accepting. That kind of changed my view of therapy because we're all in need of sometimes someone just to talk to or just a little bit of help. So that was the biggest part of like the evolution side of it, about why I want to go back now, or have been going back now. Also the fact that it's getting older, you have, a house, you have a wife, girlfriend, whatever, pets, all these friends, a job, all this stuff to juggle on top of your plate versus then when you're a teenager and you're living at home. And I realized that my mental health was hurting that, especially, a relationship, especially when you're in a relationship with someone else that also has mental health issues. It can get very hairy very quick if you don't know what's going on. So that was a big push, to be the best me, and be the best me for her, realistically.
Definitely. So did she ever consider going to therapy? I'm just curious because obviously you've discussed it together, probably as a unit.
She hasn't talked about that necessarily going back now. She was going for a lot of her life. And it's funny, I guess I never took them. I guess I took it for granted. Realistically, any of the advice that she would tell me, I would just think, oh, okay, whatever, and I brush it off. Realizing now, literally only 4 months later, I'm like, that's what my therapist told me to do. So it's funny that she has this kind of enlightenment from her journey. I don't think, again, I don't think it would hurt to go back. I don't think it hurts anybody to go to therapy. So I think it's still an awesome choice. It's just a matter of finding time for her, I think.
So what are some techniques you've learned in therapy that you like to use to help yourself?
For me, there's like three main ones I yeah, I can't talk. Typically, will use. A big issue that I have is I don't seem to like live on Earth all the time, where my head will be off in other places, whether that be anxiety or whatever it may be, or overthinking is a big part of it, of course. So when you're overthinking, and also kind of being a negative person, I guess in some ways, you think it's going to be the worst. You think people are mad at you or they're fighting with you or whatever it may be. Um, so oftentimes I'd go off on these tangents for days and think someone hates me, which is definitely not the case. Biggest thing is there evidence to support it? That gets me thinking like, oh, okay, they did this, but then this, and then this, or how I react to things. So that's actually helped me a lot because you can't always read people or their face or their actions. So really giving it a deep thought before going down that path of overthinking is really
So
that.
the phrase was what was the phrase again? Is there evidence to support it? To
So that
support
was
the anxiety or the thoughts that you're having?
I mean, I can go in a bunch of different ways. I mean, anxiety and the thoughts. Typically, my thoughts will lead to anxiety in the end, but that just kind of stops me from going down that rabbit hole of of things around me. Um, that was a big one. The other one's deduction. I want to say I'm not really sure if that's the right word I want to say for it, but what I mean by that is when you think there's a situation going on or your life or whatever it is, when you look at it in a whole, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess, and it's really hard to gather your thoughts of where I should start to get better or what I should do to get better. So something I've learned is to, even though it seems like it takes more time, you're making progress rather than just having anxiety about the issue. Is breaking it down into however many pieces you need. It could be 2 pieces, it could be 100 pieces. It doesn't matter as long as you're making some sort of steps. It's really important. So I'll break down situations. Um, I'll break down, why I want certain things in my life, and figure out what those little pieces that I actually want that I can introduce into my day to day. That might not be the thing I want, but it's a step closer. So breaking things down is really really important. Um, and Sammy said it too. Deep breathing. Can't even explain how amazing that is.
I remember you were the first person to actually tell me about like deep breathing and stuff and meditation. It only took me a couple years to use it.
It's hard. It's really hard to actually sit there and do that because you think you're wasting time, but after you're done doing it, it's like, wow, I today's not so bad maybe.
Right? Maybe. Cody, if you had any advice for any of us who might be afraid to take that step to go to therapy, what would you say?
Mine would be, well, I guess like I said, I went to therapy when I was 19 at first. Um, I've had these issues for as long as I can remember, but they definitely have seemed to realistically only gotten worse. So the way I'm going to put it is the sooner the better. I know it's scary going to therapy, but with how common it is, and trust me, we're not lying to you when we're saying that it will help in some way. Even if you don't believe in therapy, just go there to at least vent, just complain, and I promise, like, it will lead you somewhere. You will find something. So the sooner the better that you can go to therapy. And the best thing is too, and I struggle with this myself, so I'm not perfect in this, is patience in the process. I know I haven't been going long, but, and this goes for life in general, just be patient with yourself so you don't end up hating everything and yourself.
Yeah. Cody, thank you for being vulnerable and being on the show last minute. I seriously appreciate you. Do you have any questions for Sammy by chance before you go?
I guess, she mentioned that she had someone that was an intern and she ended up getting that client. I'm actually going through that now. My therapist, kind of actually, like you said too, my therapist got a new job. So my last appointment with him was about 10 days ago or so. And that was the last time I'm going to see him, unfortunately.
Oh, I
Um,
went through that too.
it kind of deters you from going back in a way because you have to, kind of restart, I guess. I guess my question would just be how that experience was for maybe her client or how she deals with that situation. Um, or if maybe there's a positive side to having another person's perspective versus just the one person.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Guys, please favorite. His name is Irrelevance on here. That's his band. But this is my best friend Cody. Please hit him with a favorite. Do you think you'll ever go live?
Eventually, I was just talking to Alex about that, my bandmate, and we're talking about we should probably do something.
Yes, yes. Let me know. We're gonna do music appreciation in a couple weeks. We'd like to have you on a lot if you guys were able to. All right, guys. Hit Cody with a favorite. Cody, thank you so much. I'll have you exit the box, and Sammy J will come through and answer your question.
Bye.
Thanks so much for being on, Cody. Guys, if you're just tuning in, this is In It Together with Gabby and Sammy. I'm Gabby. Sammy J, mental health therapist, is joining us in the box. We just had an interview with Cody about his experiences in therapy. Sammy, what do you
I
think?
lied. I'm back sooner than I thought I was going to be. Um, so, Cody, thank you. You're awesome. Great story. Um, so, to answer Cody's question, yes, so unfortunately in this field, especially in certain, if you go to like an agency versus a private practice, you are going to see a lot of turnover. So you are probably going to have more than one therapist in your life if this is something you plan to do for more than 6 months, which most people need more than 6 months. Um, it happens. So going into therapy, you need to view your therapist not necessarily as a person, but as a provider of tools. So envision like a toolbox when you go in and your therapist is picking one up like at the store, right? You go to Home Depot, right? And they say, "Okay, here, try this tool. Maybe that's helpful." And you go home and you try it and you're like, "No, that's not helpful." You come back, "What else can I try that didn't work?" That's how kind of want you to envision your therapist. So every time you get the opportunity to work with a new therapist, it's like going to Home Depot versus going to Lowe's or other stores that I'm unaware of what they're called. But they have other, some of the things may be the same, but some of them may be different. And that's why we try different stores. So kind of view your therapist the same way. Yes, you are going to make some emotional connection because it's a person that's going to help you through really, really difficult things. So it's natural that you're going to emotionally connect, but try to remind yourself that therapy is not about who that person is. It's about what you learn from that person and giving yourself the opportunity to continue to learn. Don't limit yourself by saying, well, this person left, so now I'm going to give up. No, keep learning, keep giving yourself the opportunity to learn. So I will say that. And I think also Cody brought up a good point. I believe when he said through work, he did a couple of sessions before he jumped in. I believe a lot of employers have something, I think it's called, is it EHP, Employee Health Program? I think that's what it's called, where they will offer you about 5 sessions just to see, is there quick little things that can help you stay on track. EAP, thank you. I know it was something with an E. That will keep you on track. And then from there, if you get through the 5 sessions and then you're like, I think you still need more, they'll help connect you to an outside person. So take advantage of that because that's free. I believe in most cases, those 5 sessions are free.
Awesome, Sammy. Thank you so much for the response. If you guys are just tuning in, I see Andy just came in. I haven't seen you in such a long time. If you guys are tuning in, this is In It Together with Gabby and Sammy. I'm Gabby. This is Sammy J in the box with me. She's a mental health therapist. If you guys are just tuning in, we're talking about what it's like to go to mental health therapy. You just missed Cody in the box and also my story, along with Sammy's story of becoming a therapist. But that's okay because we have one more amazing person that's going to join us in the box. Yep. Oh, hey. She is the host of The Oasis on Fridays at 7 p.m. Standard Time. So, Sammy, we're going to lose you again for a little bit.
Of course, Cody, no problem. I'll be back, guys.
All right, sounds good. Oh, hey, it's time for you to shine, girl. Just like to let you guys know we are host mode, so we don't acknowledge comments and stuff that much. Save all your questions for the end. It's time for oh hey. Oh hey, girl.
How's it going?
It's going. How are you?
Nervous. I'm gonna put my glasses on because I think it helps me a little bit not be nervous, you know.
So, I have a fidget spinner, so
What an awesome show so far.
thank you so much. And thank you for being here as well. If someone here, if any of you guys don't know oh hey, she's about to let you know who she is.
I'm Ohei. Most people call me Bree. I'm a musician on the app. I stream almost daily. Sometimes I skip the weekends, and I have a show Friday nights at 7. I've been doing it since December. We have special guests every Friday, musicians, artists, makeup artists, self-care experts, who are always coming and teaching us something, and we get to know fellow streamers a little bit and what they're all about. So yeah.
Awesome. So oh hey, you are here in this box right now because you've had therapy at one point in your life.
Multiple times in my life.
Okay, then we have a story ahead of us, guys. So, what was your when was your first experience? What was it like?
So my first experience, I was about 10. We were going to family therapy to help one of my siblings who was dealing with mental health issues. And back then, I want to say it was like, oh my God, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, it was kind of like, it was newer. So I didn't really have a choice because it was to help her. And that's what they thought would be best at the time. But yeah, and then, we kind of stopped that. Yeah.
Okay, so you experienced family therapy, so that's something that me or Cody haven't actually done before. So that's really interesting, and you were so young too. So
Yeah.
so eventually that therapy stopped. What was your opinion at that point about therapy?
I didn't really have one. I kind of like didn't want to go. It was pretty crazy time. So, but when I was 13, I went back for myself, which I also, wasn't too into, but it was supposed to be helping me more, and I can tell a little bit about that if you'd like.
That's up to you. You don't have to listen. I went into my story like with a lot more detail just because it's just what I do. But you don't have to go into detail. It's okay.
No. So, when I was 13, I started struggling, staying focused in school, and my pediatrician suggested I see a therapist or a psychiatrist, to figure out what was going on. they thought I had ADD, attention deficit disorder, because I could not stay focused. And it was actually anxiety that was making me distracted and everything. So we were dealing with a family member, my grandfather. He was in a hospice, so he every day I thought he was gonna die, and that's where all of my anxiety like came about. And then of course, typically with anxiety, depression is part of that. So I've been struggling with that for pretty much most of my life. And when I first started like going to a therapist by myself, I was super skeptical about it because the therapist I was going to was my mom's therapist.
Oh, gee,
So,
that's like a conflict of
right.
interest.
Yes, definitely. But because I was young, they thought it was okay. Which I'm sure Sammy's shaking in her boots like, no. But so, yeah.
Are you in therapy right now?
I'm actually not. I stopped going probably like 2 years ago. Near the end of me going. I mean, I'm sure eventually I'll go back. My therapist, like she kind of saves a spot for a few of her patients for like, hey, if you need me, I'll get you in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I ever need her, I'll go. I still see a psychiatrist though, which for those of you that don't know, it's the medicine doctor. But yeah. So
Okay, so what are some things that you've learned during your experiences and techniques that you use every day, or maybe not every day, but when you need to?
so definitely I fidget a lot. Actually, you guys are probably seeing that. I'm sitting here twisting my hands and all that. I guess it's also a nervous habit, but I have a fidget cube which has like all cool little buttons, and I also bend paper clips. Actually, I remember in high school when I first like started, well, when they diagnosed me, I suppose, I would constantly go to the teacher's copy room when they didn't know, and I would take handfuls of paper clips and just keep them with me at all times. And I would bend them and stuff. But I'd say the biggest tool, and I had to think about this, like, my therapist told me, look at the situation. Is it something you can fix, or is it something that's out of your control? And just like take a breath and think about it. If it's out of your control, then just forget about it. Like, don't worry about it.
Wow.
So it helped. It did help. But yeah.
That's great advice.
Mm,
That's great advice. I try to follow that advice. Usually I do. It's really it's so easy to like let those negative thoughts take over sometimes though, but that is true. Like if you can't control it, you can control your reaction anyway. So
definitely.
So, oh hey, if you had to give advice to any of us who maybe have never been to therapy but were thinking about going, what would you say?
I would definitely say try it. There's no harm in trying it. And you know what? You might not like your therapist, but there's so many, and I had to I went to 3 until I found the one that like worked for me, And even then, you can see a therapist for years. Sometimes I would think to myself, okay, is she helping me anymore? You know what I mean? But there's always other options. It's scary, like you feel like you have to tell your whole life story again to someone,
Oh yeah.
but
Mhm.
it really does. I really think that therapy is important for, I think everyone could and should try it. It definitely, my opinion on it changed as I got older,
Yeah.
because I don't like telling people how I'm feeling. I don't like people thinking, so if I were to tell you something I'm super anxious about, I don't want that to trigger you about to make you anxious about something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would just save it for that's what they're there for. No, they're good. They know what they're doing. Most of them, they know what they're doing, and that's what they're there for. Unload the shit onto them. Oh, sorry.
Oh my God. We'll bleep
Is it
that.
after 10?
We'll
I'm so sorry. I'm so passionate about this. No, I'm so sorry. I'm always harping. Don't curse on the shows.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's all good. So oh hey, you have a very interesting career that you work in, and it's not therapy, but it's kind of close. You use some of the same techniques. You mind like just telling me a little bit about how those things are kind of related to each other?
Sure. So I work at an agency that supports developmentally disabled adults. Um, and I'm part of the recreation department. So we have athletics, we have art, we have music, and we also have equestrian and like greenhouse stuff. So I'm the music coordinator. Pretty much the best way to explain it is a music therapist without the degree. So I'm doing activities that help them with their emotions and just feeling better. You know, we don't like to say higher functioning and lower functioning, but what I will say is more able. So, like, for the people that are more able, we'll do like karaoke and make cool instruments and stuff like that. For the less able, which I work more with the less able because the more able are always going out and doing like the coolest stuff in the community. But so I'll play music for them, and like if you could tell if they're having a bad day or not. So you play something more cheerful. You know, I sing with them. They play. I have little instruments that they use, and they're developmentally disabled. For people that aren't, music is such a helpful thing. If you're sad, you listen to music. You know, if you're super happy, you're listening to music, and it's definitely an outlet for sure. And I have awesome playlists, people. If you need any, message me on my Instagram.
I'm down. I'm always down to get a playlist.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to mention or plug? Thank you for sharing that with us, by the way. I think what you do is like really, really, really cool. Like so
Thank
cool.
you. I love it. I absolutely I love it. Um so yeah, so I'm having it's not just I mean it's my birthday tomorrow, but we're having a huge lineup. Thank you. We're having a huge lineup of musicians that are coming to perform in my stream. So if anyone wants to come hear some cool music, you're more than welcome. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern. Um and then my show, The Oasis, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's just a cool, yeah, check that out. Look at I'm on the big screen, mom.
You made it.
Yes. So yeah, the Oasis is just a cool, peaceful place to be. We hear, we learn something from someone on the app. They have a talent, a passion. We've had musicians, artists. Um, we have a hair colorist next Friday, like a hair. What's it called?
Hairstylist?
Yeah, I don't know.
A
He's
color.
amazing.
I
So
color, don't cut. Don't ask for a haircut.
yeah, he's pretty much Brad Mondo. But but yeah, it's just a cool place. And if you're interested, anyone being a special guest, you could message me on here. You're probably better off messaging me on my Instagram, which is meetme_ohey, because I think we all know the amount of creepy messages we get on this app. But yeah. Thank you
Well,
so much.
oh, hey, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for getting vulnerable and sharing your story with us. If you guys haven't already hit her with a favorite, you better do it right now. Do it now. Hit a one if you favorited Oh Hey. Let me see those ones. I hit
Thank
a
you.
one. Well, thank you
Thank you
so much.
so much.
We do
Appreciate
have a
it.
music appreciation show coming up on, I think it's the 11th, not this coming week, but the next week. If you want to make a appearance, that would be so cool.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'll bring my triangle. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sammy.
I'm looking forward to it. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye, guys. If you're just tuning in, this is In It Together with Gabby and Sammy. We do this show every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about coping with emotional, social, and psychological well being to promote self healing. Today, we talked about therapy. This is the Oasis. I'm just plugging her one more time. You can catch her on her show at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fridays. Sammy J, it's time to come back in the box. Let's have a little discussion about Oh Hey.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, hey, you're an amazing, amazing, amazing soul. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here with us. I'm trying to think of some of the things that she was talking about. So she was talking about how she shared a therapist with her mom, so I did want to comment on that. Um, so it's not 100% unheard of, but it is mostly frowned upon because there is a really, it's difficult when you're working with family members that are so close, because there is this confidentiality, right? So like maybe you're complaining about mom and she already talked to mom and she knows mom's side of this situation. You know, you can't let any of that go. So it is really hard to keep those things separate. I have had a very, very few cases where maybe the kid is really, really, really little. Like maybe like, I mean, I've worked with some little guys, so like 3, 4 year olds, where they don't really know the difference anyway. But I think you said you were quite a bit older at that time, so you obviously knew because you told us you knew. So that is, yeah, yeah, 13 or 14, yes, that's way, way too old for that. So yeah, there are some situations where we say that's okay. I would also say in areas that are like very country, where you know, like there's not a lot of options of people to see, you might make that exception because there's just not a lot of options. So there are some times where I say that's okay. That was probably not one of them.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you. Oh, hey. And thank you, Cody, again. And
Yeah.
Gabby.
Yes, yes, we all got vulnerable tonight. Definitely shout out to Ohey and Cody. Thanks, especially Cody. Cody, I literally asked him today. I was like, "Hey, can you be on my show?" He's not even from the app, but he's like my forever backup just in case. I appreciate you guys. So is there anything else that you would like to add, Sammy?
Um, I don't think so. Not off the top of my head. Does anybody have questions?
Yeah, this would be a great time for questions.
I'm ready.
Also, guys, on our Instagram, right after the show ends, we're going to be posting some information, like crisis hotline numbers and things like that. I think that it might be a trigger, potentially could get banned just for the fact that it's like a phone number. I don't know. I've had some
Not a
weird,
trigger for people, but a trigger for Mimi.
yeah, a trigger for me. I don't want to trigger me, but you know, some things-
Modbot, don't ban us, please.
please don't ban me. But yeah, guys, we'll have some information there for you guys. The suicide hotline I've called more than one time, and I found it very, very helpful. Just letting you know, it's
There's also a very cool texting line too. I can find it and make sure we have that up there. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there's a number that you can text. You text the word help. It connects you with a therapist, and in the meantime, it gives you like coping skills to try. And you can text. So if you're not a talker but you're a texter, that might be a good place to start.
that's really cool. I've heard about that, but I've never used that. So that's very, very cool.
Yeah, I've played with it just to make sure it actually works, and it does.
If anyone else has any questions to ask a licensed mental health therapist, this is the time to do it. I just want to say shout out to everyone who's been here with me. Can I get a one? Who's rocking with us this far? We're rolling down to the end of the show here. So thank you all for hanging out with us. Did you guys all? Oh, what's up, Sammy?
I did think something else just came to my brain about what you were talking about as far as suicidal thoughts. And I think you hit the nail on the head as far as like everybody has those thoughts one time or another. Whether it's just like, I don't care if I wake up tomorrow, or something a little bit more intense. I want people to remember, if you go to somebody and you tell somebody like, I think about dying sometimes, they're not going to throw you in a hospital for that.
Yeah, that's scary.
Gabby's story escalated, right? You got to a point where you had a plan, you knew what you were going to do, how you were going to do it, all that kind of stuff. That's where somebody might stop you and say, we have to do something. But if you can catch yourself before you get to that point of having a plan, but you recognize like, hey, I'm having some unhealthy thoughts, you are not going to get thrown into a mental institution. So keep that in mind too, that it's better to catch it before it gets to the point of having a plan.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because I know sometimes people think you'll just get like immediately like rolled off in an ambulance or something, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And they even if they're seeing a therapist, I can tell people are lying to me sometimes because they're afraid of that. And we have to have that conversation of like, being honest is okay. Like, we're going to work together through this.
Absolutely. Um, Sammy, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's something really important that a lot of people should hear. So thank you. Guys, did you guys learn anything out of this? Did you like this show? Did you
I hope you
have any
learned really
questions
something.
for us? You say that's a crazy response in my state. What? Oh,
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
thank you guys so much for joining us. Well, guys, at the end of the show, I just plug the shows that are going on right now and for the rest of the night, and I also have a tarot card for you. So let me read the card for you guys. So this card, it was I've struggled to find a card today, but the card I picked is, what excuse am I making right now? No more waiting. There will never be a good enough time. The time is now. Today's soul action says, if it's important enough to you, you will find a way. Today, make a decision and do it, even if you don't feel ready. Listen to your heart. You will be led.
Oh,
So thank you
yes.
guys so much for joining. This will be put on the show's Instagram. If you guys would like to be a part of the show by being either in the Tell Me Something Good segment or the topic question and answer segment, make sure you follow us on Instagram. My Instagram's in my bio. That's my main one, Gabby Uke. The show's Instagram is in Sammy's bio. So make sure you click on Sammy's name, favorite her while you're there, and then also join us on Instagram. I know I'm getting close to 1,000. I think I'm 10 away from 1,000 followers on Instagram. So I'm just kind of waiting to hit that landmark because I'm really excited. Sammy J, thank you so much for an awesome show. Today was really good.
Thank you.
Once again, Oh Hey and Cody, thank you so much for being our guests. Sammy, I'll have you exit the box, and I'm just gonna promote the shows for the
Bye,
rest of the night. Have a great night, guys. Make sure you have Sammy favorited. She's amazing. Guys, after my show, which is happening right now at 10 o'clock, we have Bart Presents Valiant, guys. This is one of the new banner shows. Bart's awesome. Um, the active service is defined differently by those who live it. Army veteran Bart highlights guests and their experience in military branches. Find inspiration from those who are valiant. So, shout out to Bart. He's live right now. One day at a time with Charisma. She's also live right now. Do you have a goal you can't seem to get started? Set in motion your next great plan. Learn the steps to achievement with certified life coach Charisma. So make sure you guys go hang out in those lives right now. And then at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have Nerd to Know with Ariana. Comic books, video games, and all things geek. Ariana is a super fan. Join for the breaking news you nerd to know. So, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this amazing community on here. I'm so excited that you guys are here every week with me. Join us next week. We're going to be talking about forgiveness with More Mizrab as our guest. If you guys don't know, More has a new show called The Forgiveness Project. It is every other Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, not this Sunday coming up. Wait, it happened last Sunday. So his show is not this coming Sunday. It's going to be the next one. So it's a really awesome show. People go on and talk about some of the traumas they've experienced and how they were able to forgive. So it's very intense. It's a very beautiful show. So definitely go check that out. And guys, I will see you next time. Bye.